Am I getting you today from Big Animal Studio?
You are, man. I'm in my studio, Big Animal, in South Carolina.
Yeah, there you go. So is this where the new solo record was made?
For the most part, yes. It was made some on tour, some at my previous studio where Shinedown recorded the album Attention Attention and songs like Diamond Eyes and Cut the Cord were done at my previous studio that I had for about 15 years on James Island here in South Carolina. And then I closed that when my wife and I moved out here and built this place. So.
But you're still a South Carolina person, just a different part of South Carolina?
No, just well, same city, just different borough, I guess. Charleston is where I live, so there are lots of islands and barrier islands
Right.
around. So I live on a different island now than I lived on previously. So
Well, what makes you a lifer to South Carolina? Because back in the day, you want to make it as a producer, as a
Mhm.
musician, you got to move to New York, LA, Chicago, Miami, that kind of a deal.
Yeah. Well, first of all, man, it's a great place to live. Charleston is a beautiful place, very historic. I love the ocean. I can't not be near the ocean. That's part of my deal. I love offshore fishing and stuff, so kind of as a hobby. But honestly, man, I was very blessed early on to have a manager named Johnny Diamond. That was his actual name. He managed me as a producer. I was the first producer he ever managed, the first artist he ever managed, and he and I came up together. And he had this just a real knack for hearing diamond in the rough artists. Like he would find these bands mostly from here, mostly from Charleston
Hmm.
area, in Charleston area anyway, southeast, and would go, "Hey man, I think you need to work with this band," and he'd bring me the band, and I would produce the band, do a lot of pre-production, work on songs, and then what ended up happening is I would say probably 85% of those bands went on to get some sort of label attention, and so there was never any real reason to leave. Interestingly enough, Johnny went on to manage Rick Beato as a producer, and early in his producing career, Johnny unfortunately passed away in 2014. But honestly, man, there was never a I didn't have to leave because of that. I mean, I didn't realize it at the time how fortunate I was to have that relationship, and how rare a relationship like that is, where an artist slash producer can find someone who is innately talented in the business side of things as well as having a great ear, and who's hungry and just getting started, and it has the same type of drive that I had. He had the same drive I had to be successful at the time, and we formed this partnership that proved very, very successful. It was a very successful um, binary relationship, and it um so yeah, man, because of that, I just was able to put down roots here and actually had bands come to me, which is just, again, man, like at the time it just seemed like this is how business works. This is how you do it. And now that I look back, I realize just how rare that is and how fortunate I was.
Yeah, before I ask you more about the I Had a Name record and
Yeah.
Mind Control the single, you got to say that stuff so the SEO picks it up, the algorithm and all that.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you mentioned Rick Beato because when I spoke with your drummer, I asked a bunch of Rick questions, and
Yeah.
I know that he'd worked with Shinedown early on. And
Hmm.
basically, you are the Rick of this band, being the person who can competently play, but at the same time produce and outside rider, and then you became a full-on member. And was it
Yeah.
'08?
Oh 07, oh 08. Yeah.
Oh
Right.
seven,
Yeah.
oh eight.
The, the,
Okay.
the, the, the relationship started in 07. So yeah.
After the Van Hagar tour.
After the Van Hagar tour, right after the Van Hagar tour, pretty much. Like not long after it anyway. Yeah.
But hey, back to you and your solo record. When did you actually finish it?
I finished it in 2020. I finished it 2 days before Brent and I started writing what would become Planet Zero, the album. So I literally finished. I remember Brent was like, "Hey man, we need to start writing the next record." And we were in pandemic and stuff, but like we were just, everybody was wanting to get to work. I think everyone in the music business was just trying to get ahead of whatever was next. And so Brent's like, "Hey man, we need to start writing." I'm like, "Hey, just look, man, I got to finish this record. I have to. I'm very one dimensional. I have to be doing one thing at a time." Um, because I find that most things that I've been pretty much everything I've been successful at is when I'm just doing that one thing and I concentrate really hard on it and then move on to the next thing. Not great for multitasking, but really good for my success so far. And I was like, hey man, I have to finish this record. And he's like, well, as soon as you're done mixing it, I'm coming to you. We're going to get started. And so I finished mixing it. And I called him. I said, hey man, I'm done with the mixes. I'm sending it off to be mastered. And 2 days later, we started writing Planet Zero. And because of that, I just never really had a chance to get it released. And there were some other factors too. I wasn't really sure I wanted to release it, to be honest with you. So so yeah, it's been finished in a finished form for quite some time. Thankfully, I would the extra time enabled me to I think I did 2 mix tweaks to something, and I maybe did one or two lyrical changes that were bothering me, and had it remastered before I put it out this time. But and again, not to pick over it, because I really feel like once something's finished, it's finished. You just have to, or abandon, wherever they say you have to leave it. You leave some things on the table. I mean, there's a lot of things on this record that are still left on the table for me. But and I feel
Wow.
like that's what makes records uh real and living and breathing. I think that if you pick over them too much, they start to lose something, and you have to leave those scars on them that um and I mean it's uh I think it's a disease that I have, where I want to make things perfect. And I think it's really healthy for me to leave things imperfect at the end of the day. So but yeah, it's been done for quite some time.
The first song that just about everyone will hear from the record is Mind Control. Was that the single because you knew that it was distinct, or is it just one of the first things done?
It was first of all, I never thought about a single with this record. This record was not a single based record. It was I'm telling scenes from a story, and I was just trying to write as interesting songs that I thought were good. Of course, I want the lyrics to be good and the melodies to be great and all of these things. I'm not trying to write something weird for the sake of it being weird, but I never set out to write a single. And so when it came to when in fact, I never thought there would be a single. I thought I would just release this record and people would say, "Okay, there's this record, and it's a body of work, and that's what it is." And the minute that I started talking to the other guys in the band and people in our camp about doing this, well, what's the first single? And I'm like, it was almost frustrating. It almost became frustrating for me, because I'm like, I don't know what the single is. I don't hear a single because I never set out to write a single. Um, and so I actually passed the record around to some friends and to people in our business camp and our band and my wife, and you know and just and friends that aren't musicians, just average listeners. And I was like, what do you think, what sounds like a single to you? And without fail, everyone would come back with a different answer. So um so Mind Control actually was just when we finally sat down and had the uh a meeting about releasing this record. And it was I actually had to think seriously about releasing a single, because I had people wanting to help me in that department with putting something out to radio and to DSPs and whatever. And uh the general consensus from most of the people was that Mind Control sounded like a first single. And that, honestly, that's why it's the first single. There's no real magic to it or anything. It is pretty representative of the record. There's a lot of piano work on the record. A lot of the songs kind of dip in and out of chaos and heaviness into soft pieces and then back again. So having that softer piece at the end is pretty indicative of the record. So um, uh, it's probably, honestly, probably the most straightforward song on the record too. So um, that's I dig it though. It's fast, it's energetic. I think that people gravitated toward it, so are gravitating toward it. So um yeah, that's the sole reason why it's a single, is because it was the last song standing when we were trying to figure it out.
Yeah, well, you said something in there that I think was very interesting beyond the target question, which is that you had the support of your bandmates. A
Yeah.
lot of times when you're a member of a band that sold millions of records, the other people go, "Well, we don't want to water down our brand with side projects."
Yeah.
Reading to bring up Van Halen again, the Alex Van Halen book, he's just talking bad stuff about how Eddie did Thriller.
Yeah.
or it did Beat It on Thriller and all that kind of thing. Oh, you're ruining the band by doing that. But sounds like Shinedown is more democratic than your average band.
We're the most boring reality show you could ever watch. I mean, it's honestly, man, there aren't going to be any books written probably because there's no dirt. You know, we and you know, I think people kind of are they're either sick of us saying this or they don't believe us, but it's true, man. We all love each other very much, and we all get along really well, and we all communicate very well with each other, and we all genuinely care about each other's well-being. And we all four still ride one bus together on tour when we wouldn't have to. You know, we all stay in the same hotels. We all hang out on days off. Um, you know, so uh look, Zach and Brent do Smith Myers, you know, and that their acoustic side project that they do. And
Mhm.
Barry and I are super supportive of that. You know, Barry spearheaded this whole hot sauce thing that
Yeah,
Shinedown's doing right now.
I
That's
was
his.
going to ask about that a little later. I had the pleasure of
Yeah,
interviewing
sure,
Barry
sure,
about the
yeah.
hot sauce. Are you
And
involved in that, or that is
I'm not, man. That's all Barry. That's his deal. That's his thing that he wanted to do. That's his side project, if you will. And amongst other things, I mean, Barry and I have made music together. We've actually got some really, really great tracks, very Gorillaz, Beastie Boys,
oh,
um, you know, Outcast sort of vibe tracks that we've made that we honestly been trying to find some figure out what to do with that stuff for a while. But every once in a while, he and I will get in the studio with our friend Siggy and just you know, make music together. You know, it's so when it came time for this thing to happen, no one looked at this as a like a threat to anything or you know, there's no trouble in paradise by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, one of the reasons why this record is coming out is because my bandmates and my wife and a few close friends really pushed me to put it out because I wasn't sure I was going to do it and my bandmates were like, "You have to put this record out," and that's
mm,
very rare, man. That's it. Again, it goes back to being blessed with with my manager situation back in the day, and now here's another thing that I'm very blessed with, and the reason why this record can see the light of day is because, you know, we are literally each other's support system, and yeah, I mean, we look, man, we have arguments, and you know, we're a marriage, right? I mean, you know, there's
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna have things, but it's never about this. You know, it's about never about things like this. It's about you know, maybe internal workings of the band or something, and you know, people have differing opinions, but there's never any issues. You know, never any big overarching issues that are going to cause some sort of breakup or something like that. I mean, um, you know, I mean, it's again a boring reality show at the end of the day.
It's also kind of refreshing. But two more questions, and then I
Sure.
let you go. You ready?
Yeah, man. How about it?
Okay. First one, the I Had a Name record. Of course, the logistics of touring are not like what they were back in the day. Are you going to do a record release show or a couple shows around the home base in support of the record?
No plans for any shows right now. At one point, I was thinking about putting a like a all-star band together or something to go out and tour and play some shows. A bunch of friends of mine and other bands and that sort of thing. And but with the nature of Shinedown being what it is, I mean, we're I'm actually editing there are 5 videos that go for with I Had a Name, the record. So I'm editing those videos right now. And once I'm done with that, we're back to writing and getting ready to record the next Shinedown record. We actually have a lot of stuff already recorded. So and some of it mixed. So I've got to jump right back into that, you know, and I'm actually a happier creature in the studio than I am on the stage. So but that's not to say that it won't happen. Uh you know, the graphic novel will be out late next year, so it won't be out at the same time with the record. So maybe when the graphic novel drops, you know, maybe I do some shows then or something. That might be fun. But right now the plan is to get the visual side of this record realized. And I do have an interesting plan for record release day.
Oh,
Um, so but I can't give too many details on that just in case it doesn't come to fruition. But but I'm scheming on something kind of interesting. So
got it. Last question for you. It sounds like a stock question when you do the who are your influences thing, but a kind of a different direction.
sure.
Most people I find start off just listening to the radio and not really caring about who the singer is, who the artist is, who the album is, etc. But what was the band that got you from just personal listen to the radio to going, okay, this is a career or something that I'm going to do and not just have on in the background?
Yeah, Van Halen, man. You said it. For me,
Oh,
and here's the thing. Like just out of pure coincidence and my age, it was really Van Hagar first, and then
mhm.
I backed into to the older records. I had a buddy of mine handed me and I'd listened to some other stuff. I'd listened to Queen and Aerosmith and Fat Boys and like all sorts of stuff, man. I was born in the 70s. I'm a child of the 80s. So I hit my musical trajectory was just perfect for some of the great music. I really started becoming aware of music in 84, 85.
Oh,
And I was in high school when I was in high school, right at that crossover of hair metal and grunge and,
yeah.
90, I graduated in 93. So, I just had this great time of music that when I was conscious of music it was a really great time. Becoming conscious of music, I should say. Uh, but a buddy of mine gave me a long play cassette, and I can't remember if the whole record made it on both sides, but I don't think it did. But one side was Back in Black, the other side was 5150. And, uh, man, I put on 5150 and it was just like, holy shit, what is this? And I actually I was in a garage band that morphed into a Van Halen cover band when I was in high school, and probably not a good Van Halen cover band, but a Van Halen cover band nonetheless. And then honestly, man, after that, after when I got out of high school, I discovered do you ever heard of a band called Stuck Mojo? Do you know who Stuck
Yeah,
Mojo is?
Rich Ward
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Fozzy.
So interestingly enough, Rich's sister Maggie was living with my wife, my now wife, my girlfriend then, and her sister at my mother-in-law's house. And Maggie was like, and Maggie and my wife's sister were kind of hippie chicks, and they're like, hey, do you want to go see my brother's band play in Charleston? They're playing a place called the Music Farm. We're gonna go see my brother's band play at Music Farm. And I'm like, what do they call it? Called Stuck Mojo. Well, when you hear that name and you're thinking hippie band, you're like, this is like some jam band, dude. I
Right.
was like, well, I'll go check it out. And this was probably 94, 94,
Oh,
95, 94, right around in there. And man, I didn't know what I was in for. I didn't know what this band did. And I was at the time I was playing in like more hardcore bands and stuff, and I was into heavy music, but I'd never heard of Stuck Mojo before. I thought I was going to watch a jam band, and these four individuals hit the stage, and there weren't a lot of people at the time because they were still coming up, and
yeah.
but they were an Atlanta band, but they hit the stage and they performed for 30 people like it was an arena full of people, and I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never seen a band with that much energy on stage live ever.
Right.
Um, there's no production to rely on. They are the production, and that, and then meeting Rich that night, and after that, like changed my trajectory completely. Changed the way I looked at performing. Changed the way that I looked at music. Changed the way that what I thought was possible, or what I thought I wanted my bands to be, or my band that I was in at the time to be. And that relationship that I formed with Rich, and he and I still keep up. Yeah, he was my tangible guitar hero. Like a guy I could talk to.
Triple guitar.
And well, like
He's like your Scott Ian.
I'd go see Stug Mojo play, and eventually Corey Lowry joined the band, right? Corey Lowry, Clint Lowry's brother, and Corey's now in Seether.
Yeah.
Um, uh, they formed the Stereo Mud and a couple other
Oh
bands.
yeah. I
Yeah,
remember that.
and Steel Rain back in the day too. But eventually, Corey joined the band, and Stug Mojo ended up taking my band at the time, took us out on tour to play some shows, and it was just, I don't know, man. It was just something about that, like watching a band that just blew me away, and then being able to like hang out with them and talk to them, ask them questions and that sort of thing, that really changed my trajectory. So, and then look, man, there are a lot of other artists in there that I mean, my musical list of genres that I love and people that I love and artists that I love is extensive. But if I had to point to two things, it was discovering Van Halen and then seeing Stuck Mojo play. Those two things were like so pivotal. And what's great too, man, is I'm able to tell Rich, like I've told him before, I'm like, you realize I'm sitting here because of you. And that's not a bullshit statement. Like if that hadn't happened, if I hadn't seen that band play that night, and you know, my trajectory would have been wholly and completely different. And so, you know, what a cool thing to be able to experience. And you know, the band that you love. And man, I just really enjoyed those, especially those first couple records, man, the Snap and Next records, and the Pig Walk record, especially. Like, Devin Townsend produced Pig Walk, and it's very Devin, but it's like, you know, it's like this fucking great record, man. If you've never heard Pig Walk by Stuck Mojo, check it out. It's a great metal rap meld. But yeah, man, really cool to be able to have that experience, and have someone that inspired me to be able to be a you know, while not on speed dial, but like a part of my life that I could, you know, I could talk to occasionally about things. So
Paltrocast.